Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada. Om Shri Mahaganapataye Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Padyantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Asmadgurubhyo Namaha. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badharayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishwaro Guru Ratmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shri Medha Dakshinamurti Swamine Namaha. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om. Namaste everybody once again.
Namaste Guruji, Pranam.
Pranam. Shruti Pramanaikamateh. Shruti Pramanaikamateh Swadharmanishta Tayaivatma Vishuddhirasya Vishuddha Buddhe Paramatma Vedhanam Tenaiva Samsara Moolanashaha. So this is the 44th verse we are discussing. And the discussion is about the answer to the 6th question of the student, Katham Vimokshaha. How to get liberation, freedom. And as I said, this sloka presents the 2 stages of spiritual journey to moksha. This journey consists of 2 stages. So, the problem of samsara to be addressed consists of 2 layers, emotional layer and the intellectual layer. These 2 layers have to be addressed. And as I said, the intellectual layer of samsara consists of 2 elements. What are they? Ajnanam and adhyasa. Ignorance and superimposition because of ignorance. And the emotional layer comprises of tapatrayam. Actually, basically only one emotional layer is tapatrayam, where you get all the 3 tapas. Then last item, punarjanma, which is also part of samsara, is a consequence of failure to tackle the intellectual layer and tapatrayam. This is how we have to understand. If you put a chart, emotional layer, then you got intellectual layer. Intellectual layer, 2 this branches. Ajnanam, adhyasa. Emotional layer, tapatrayam. Then you connect both of them, everything comes down to punarjanma. And samsara is a consequence of basically failure to tackle intellectual layer and the tapatraya, both rather. Therefore, Shastra approaches the solution to the problem in 2 stages, which are the Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga. So first, the emotional layer is dealt with through Karma Yoga. And as I said in the last class, in addition to leading to Chitta Shuddhi, that's purification of the mind, Karma Yoga can neutralize the emotional layer of samsara. Karma yoga can heavily dilute all forms of emotional disturbance caused by tapatraya. Adi Adhyatmika, Adi Bhautika, and Adi Daivika, all these tapas, emotional, which cause emotional disturbances, Karma Yoga is capable of diluting all these forms. And thereafter, we enter into the intellectual layer, which is tackled through Jnana Yoga. And in the last class, we discussed the Karma Yoga part of this shloka, which is covered in the first line. Shruti pramanaika matehe swadharma nishta tayaivatma vishuddhirasya. So for a spiritual seeker who is Shruti pramanaika matehe, whose mind is committed to Shruti, to the Vedas, to the scriptures as a means of knowledge, and who has Swadharma Nishta, an unwavering commitment to one's own dharma. We saw about Swadharma in the context of the current situation. What is Swadharma? In the context of the Vedic lifestyle or Vedic society, Swadharma was determined based on Varna and Ashrama. All those things are almost sort of gone in today's world. So we redefined, as Swami Paramata Nandaji's redefinition of Swadharma is Panchamahayajnas. So Swadharma Nishta Taya Eva Asya Atma Vishuddhihi. Through that only one gains purification of the mind. Atma Vishuddhihi. Here Atma means mind, not the Sachidananda Atma. Atma Vishuddhihi. So this is the first stage of the spiritual journey covered by Karma Yoga sadhanas. And through this, the seeker becomes a qualified seeker, a sadhana chatushtaya sampanna adhikari. So this is the content of the first line of the sloka. Then the second stage of Jnana Yoga is presented in the second line. And he says, Vishuddha Buddhehe. For such a person who has purified his mind, who has become a sadhana chatushtaya sampanna adhikari, for that qualified student, Paramatma Vedanam, self-knowledge will take place. Because now I take myself to be a Jivatma, because I have not drawn the boundaries between Atma and Anatma. The boundaries are very blurred. I consider my body, mind, and Anatma to be me the Atma. And this has created an encroachment problem, as we have discussed earlier. So through Karma Yoga, when I get enough purification of the mind, my vision becomes very clear. So then I reset the boundary, hand over the body, mind, sense complex to the Anatma domain. Therefore, we should understand moksha is not acquiring something. Even though in the language we'll say he attained moksha, he gained moksha, all that expressions we will use. But what we must understand is moksha is nothing but identification with your real self, your Atma, with your Swarupa, Sachidananda Swarupa. That is what is moksha is all about. Moksha is not traveling to Vaikunta, Kailasa, Brahmaloka, all that. Those are all mokshas of a lower kind, in the sense of temporary mokshas. You may enjoy liberation for some period of time, maybe longer than what we enjoy in this world. But Chine Punye Martelokam Vishanti. Once the punya, because of which you have gained that moksha, the temporary moksha, by going to all these places, once the punyam which is powering that moksha is exhausted, you will come back like, the kite. You're flying a kite, and the entire control of the kite is held in your hand by a thread. When the thread, and that thread is the punya thread, because of that moksha kite is flying. When the thread gets cut off, what will happen to the kite? Moksha will come back to the earth only, to the ground only. So that is not permanent moksha. Relative moksha, you can say. Samsara does not go away by going to Vaikunta and all. Samsara will still remain. You might have got a temporary respite, some break in samsara, like we have got this lunch break, tea break and all that. But that samsara continues. So what is the real moksha? Real moksha is actually not acquiring something, not reaching some place. It is shedding this body, mind, sense complex identification and shifting the identification to the Atma, the five-featured consciousness. You must all remember, whenever I say Atma or consciousness, you must recall all the five features we have discussed, maybe more than once we have discussed. And once the Anatma is excluded, we get a beautiful set of equations. What is that? Paramatma plus Anatma is equal to Jivatma. One set of equation. From that we derive Jivatma minus Anatma is equal to Paramatma. And therefore, for that person, Paramatma Vedanam, he will claim himself to be Paramatma. Who? The one who has got Vishuddha Buddhi. Literally, it means he knows the Paramatma. Paramatma Vedanam, with dhatu. Vedanam means knowledge. With means knowledge. So, literally, Paramatma Vedanam means he knows Paramatma. He gets the knowledge of Paramatma. But in the context of moksha, we have to translate that as he claims himself as Paramatma. Aham Brahmasmi. This is the culmination of Jnana Yoga. So this is a beautiful and significant sloka because it just sort of, put it in a very, very, not in a nutshell, the entire Vedanta. First line is Karma Yoga. And in the second line, the first quarter is Jnana Yoga. I mean, if you just read it, you will not understand all that unless Guru explains all this to you. And the fourth quarter of the verse, because whenever we talk about Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga, we will always talk about the result also, the phalam also of Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga, which is given here beautifully in the fourth quarter. The combined phalam of Karma Yoga plus Jnana Yoga, which is moksha, is given in the fourth quarter. What does he say? Tenaiva samsara moola nashaha. That is how he defines moksha. Samsara moola nashaha. So as we have seen, the four-layered samsara consisting of Ajnanam, Adhyasa, Tapatrayam and Punarjanma, self-ignorance, self-misconception, emotional turmoil, rebirth, death. All these 4 layers are destroyed. They are uprooted, so that even the seeds of samsara are destroyed. Mula nasha. Mula means right from the root, they are destroyed, uprooted. Therefore, all emotional problems and all intellectual problems are taken care of. Once they are gone, samsara nasha hai, samsara will also go away. Samulam, along with its root called self-ignorance. What is the basic problem of samsara? Why it is come? We have already seen. How does this samsara come? Self-ignorance is the basic reason for the entire samsara. All our unhappiness, sorrow, grief in life, all because of ignorance of the real nature of ourself, which is an intellectual problem. So with this shloka, 6 questions have been answered. Now, 7th question. Tayor vivekah katham. How should the self-enquiry be done? How one should gain this discrimination between Atma and Anatma? So the process of self-enquiry is the 7th question. As I said, Jivatma minus Anatma is equal to Paramatma. But question is, this Jivatma minus, how do I do this minusing? How do I actually reduce? How do I remove Anatma from Jivatma? Well, that's a very crucial question. Unless you do that, you are not going to get moksha. What kind of surgery I have to perform in order to separate the Anatma from Jivatma, so that what remains is only Paramatma? That crucial process is the answer to the 7th and final question. In fact, we are in sloka number 44. The rest of the text up to sloka 108 is an answer to the 7th question alone. Because that process is not a very easy process. It is, you can probably compare it to a neural surgery, a brain surgery rather. Not an easy thing at all. Brain as such is a very subtle part of our body, very, very subtle part of our body. And when you have to do surgery, the surgeon has got to be very, very careful, because surgeon will not know which part, if he touches, where it will get affected. That's why one of the most complicated, subtle surgeries, the brain surgery. So similarly, this surgery of removing this Anatma from Jivatma is also a very, very, very subtle process. It's a very crucial process also, because if you mess up the whole thing, you will fall deeper and deeper into the samsara only. We have reached this stage of studying Vivekachudamani, studying Bhagavad Gita, studying the Upanishads, etc., probably after many, many janmas, many, many human births that we have acquired in the past. And in every birth, little by little, we have tried to move towards the goal of moksha. And you have now come to the stage in this janma where you have to undertake that crucial surgery. And if you mess it up, what will happen? All that you have done in the previous janmas, they may become useless. You will have to probably start again. So without messing it, even if you do not actually complete the surgery in this birth, what is important is that you should not mess up the whole thing. How can you mess up? First of all, you can mess up if you read Shastra on your own, Vedas, Vedantas, Upanishads on your own, and don't get the real understanding. You don't go to a guru because you got a very bloated ego. Why should I take the help of somebody else? Who is after all a guru? Many people ask such questions. I'm not just making up all these things. Why should I go to a guru? I will do my own study. I'm a very intelligent person. I will do my own study. I've got dictionaries. I've got this. I've got some commentaries which are there on the internet. I will read all that. Therefore, this process is a very crucial process. So we are now going to enter the process of self-inquiry. The real Shravanam begins. And we will read the 45th verse. Munjadishikamiva drishya vargat pratyanchamatmanama sangamakriyam vichitya tatra pravilapya sarvam tadatmana yassa yuktaha. Anvaya is yaha munjat ishikam iva asangam akriyam pratyancham atmanam drishyavargat vivichya tatra sarvam pravilapya tadatmana tishtati saha yuktaha. Beautiful. I mean, each sloka Adi Shankara has written. I wish that all of you would have had a good knowledge of Sanskrit. You'll just simply enjoy these slokas. Such profound ideas in a poetic manner. He captures in just four quarters or 2 sentences, 2 lines. That happiness itself is almost you are on the doorsteps of moksha. Rather, when you just read and understand the construction of this, how many ideas he is actually packing in one sloka, amazing. In fact, all of us must accept Adi Shankara as our guru. Always remember him, do puja. That's why we start the class itself with what? Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyama. And we don't stop there. We say Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam. He is the temple of Shruti, Smriti and Puranas. Amazing. I mean, he was born in Kali Yuga. We are really very blessed to be born in Kali Yuga because we got Shankaracharya, Adi Shankara in this Kali Yuga. Anyhow, I tend to digress from the main topic. Anyhow, so word meaning yaha, one who, munjat, from munja grass. Munja grass is a tall grass. I'll explain a little bit later. Ishikamiva, like the tender stalk which is to be taken out from the munja grass. Asangam, unattached, unassociated. Akriyam, free from action. Pratyancham, the innermost. Atmanam, Paramatma, the subject. Drishyavargat, from the host of objects. Vivichya, having separated. Tatra, there. Sarvam, everything. Pravilapya, resolving. Tadatmana, as the very self. Tishtati, remains. Saha mukta. He is a liberated person. He is a free person. So he is liberated. He is free. Who, like separating the inside stalk from the munja grass. Inside there is a very soft stalk is there inside the munja grass. So, like separating the inside stalk from the munja grass, having separated the unassociated innermost self, the subject, which is actionless from the whole host of objects, and resolving everything there in that Atma, remains by knowledge as that very Atma. He is the one who is mukta hai. So the final stage of spiritual sadhana is what? Self-inquiry. And the best part is that the scriptures proclaim that every jiva is in the spiritual path only, irrespective of what body the jiva has acquired in this life. It could be a worm body, a tiger body, a plant body, a human body. All jivas are in the spiritual path only at various stages. What do we mean by that? By that we mean every jiva is in the path to find enduring happiness only. Some are ahead, some are behind. But the final destination of every jiva's life is moksha alone. And this is what authoritatively the scriptures proclaim. So there is a hope for everybody. If you do not consciously, with awareness, travel or get into the spiritual journey, what will happen? Only the destination will become far and far. Journey will become longer. Therefore, wisdom and intelligence demand that in a human birth, when you have got a free will, you have got a developed intellect, you have got a beautiful antakaranam, mana buddhi chitta ahankara. Using all these instruments, you choose moksha as your destination in this birth itself. By that, you will be short-circuiting the entire process and your journey will become faster towards moksha, towards enduring happiness, while living itself, not after death, while living itself. Advaita Vedanta philosophy is how to gain enduring happiness in this life itself. All philosophies say, other philosophies, that after death you will get all these things. What is the guarantee that after death you are going to? Anybody has seen death and come back and say? Only Vedanta says you can actually realize that enduring happiness in this birth itself. So, the final destination of every jiva's life is moksha alone. And that is why, a traditional Acharya will regularly keep reminding the students of this fact. If there is an Acharya who says, no, self-inquiry is not required, Bhakti will give liberation, Bhagavan will give liberation, Nama Sankirtanam will give liberation, Ashtanga Yoga will give liberation, etc. We can say that Acharya is not portraying or he is not teaching what is there in the scriptures. That Acharya has strayed away from the tradition. As Advaita Vedantins, we do not say that bhakti is not relevant for self-inquiry. In fact, without bhakti, you cannot even enter karma yoga. What to talk of jnana yoga? That's why we say Shraddha and Bhakti is the first stage which help a lot in personality development and addressing a very significant portion of the emotional problems. If you travel in the Bhakti Marga, it will culminate in self-inquiry later. While in the Bhakti Marga, you may not be able to see where it is all leading to. But that is the road which leads to self-inquiry later, which leads to Jnana Yoga later. And this an Acharya has to regularly emphasize and say that Atma Vichara is the final lap of the spiritual journey. And every student has to remember this continuously. Your spiritual journey doesn't stop with just doing bhajans, doing Ashtanga. We don't say Ashtanga Yoga is not to be done. Ashtanga Yoga is a very, very important component of this entire spiritual journey. Ashtanga Yoga helps you in gaining concentration, Naischalyam. You can focus. That's the training you get from Ashtanga Yoga. And it starts right even when you are doing just yogasanas, You would have heard teachers saying yogasanas has to be done with mindfully. Mindfully means what? You train your mind to go to that part of the body which you are doing exercise at that particular point in time. Slowly, slowly, you are developing a capability to direct your mind. Any asana you take, if it's a good teacher, if it's an Ashtanga Yoga teacher, today's world, unfortunately, they say we are teaching you Ashtanga Yoga, but they only teach you maybe one or two angas, maybe pranayamam and this asanas. 6 topics of Ashtanga Yoga nobody talks about. But if you are really a good Ashtanga Yoga teacher, right from asana pranayamam practice, he will direct the student to direct his mind, his or her mind, to the particular area where the exercise is, the asana is taking place. So you learn to direct your mind for a few seconds even to a particular place in your body. So Ashtanga Yoga also contributes a lot for self-inquiry, because at that time also when you are studying Upanishad, Bhagavad Gita, etc., you have to direct your mind to the subject, what is being taught. And that is what Shankaracharya says here. Atma Vichara is the final lap of the spiritual journey. We have, as I said, we claim ourselves as Jivatma, a mixture of Atma and Anatma. We have understood Anatma as what? Stula, Sukshma, Karana, Sharira, Shariratrayam. And we have understood, we all know Atma as consciousness. All these things we have already seen. And we also know that the problem of samsara is because both these Atma and Anatma are inseparably mixed together. We cannot separate them. If we try to physically separate Anatma from Atma, Anatma will disappear and Atma will become unrecognizable. To know Atma, we require Anatma. To know Anatma, we require Atma. But we have to, Atma Vichara is we have to separate the two in order to understand what is the nature of Anatma, what is the nature of Atma. I need to separate them in order to understand who am I really. I need to separate them as the first step in the process of self-inquiry. And since they cannot be physically separated, intellectually I should separate the consciousness from Shariratrayam, the Anatma. And this is what we talk about in Gita also, Atma Anatma Vivekaha. This discrimination, differentiation between what is the real nature of Anatma and real nature of Atma is the first step. We must be very clear. If you are not clear in this, there is no point in going further rather. And this is given as the heading here. Tayor Vivekaha Khatam. Tayoho means Atma Anatmanoho, both of which are components of one Jivatma. Now here, Adi Shankara is employing an ingenious method in order to teach us how this intellectual separation can be done, or how this separation can be done intellectually. For that, he uses a technique which is employed in the Shastras, employed in the Upanishads. If you remember earlier when he talked about Anatma, he introduced Anatma as Shariratrayam, Stula, Sukshma, Karana, Sharira. Now he starts segregating the Atma, and while segregating Atma and Anatma, he is changing the technique, the modality, the process from Shariratrayam to Panchakosha. The same three bodies are represented here as Panchakoshas. Kosha means what? Kosha means a layer or a covering, Like in winter, in cold countries, we wear a number of layers to protect our body, isn't it? We will start with an inner wear, then probably a shirt or a t-shirt, over that a half sweater, a pullover, then over that an overcoat, etc. Similarly, the Shastra says the Atma is protected by these Panchakoshas. It's the same three bodies which is represented as Panchakoshas. Now, what are these koshas? Adi Shankara himself will discuss this in detail later. But I'll just mention very broadly how to understand the Panchakoshas in the context of the three bodies, the Shariratrayam, which we already know about. The Stula Sharira, the physical body, is called Annamaya Kosha. Stula Shariram, the gross body, is called Annamaya Kosha. Why it is called Annamaya Kosha? That also we will see. Then the middle one, the Sukshma Shariram, is subdivided into three koshas. What are they? Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya. Pranamaya kosha corresponds to the Kriya Shakti, the ability to act. Manomaya kosha corresponds to Ichcha Shakti, the ability to desire, without which even you cannot get moksha Ichcha. You cannot become a mumukshu without Manomaya. And then Vijnanamaya Kosha, which corresponds to Jnana Shakti or self-inquiry, intellectual layer. So Kriya Shakti Pranamaya Kosha hai, Ichcha Shakti Manomaya Kosha hai, Jnana Shakti Vijnanamaya Kosha hai. So all these three are subdivisions of one Sukshma Shariram. And Karana Shariram is renamed as Anandamaya Kosha hai. Thus, the three Sharirams are renamed as 5 koshas. So now the same Shariratrayam, the 3 bodies, are recategorized as Panchakosha. So therefore, now we are going to differentiate the Atma from the Panchakosha Anatma. And this process is called Panchakosha Vivekaha. And that is being introduced in this shloka. We must remember, as I said, this is not a physical segregation. It is purely an intellectual segregation. And this process requires a very fine intellect. Fine intellect means what? Subtle intellect, an intellect which is able to focus, concentrate. Because when you take the physical body, which is a gross one, a tangible one, intellect can easily comprehend that, isn't it? Whether it's a physical body of a human body or anything, rather anything which is tangible, it's not a big challenge for the intellect to comprehend, understand, recognize that. But when you come to the Sukshma Sharira, the subtle body, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, etc., each one of these later koshas, they are not tangible or visible. That's why Taitra Upanishad points out that Anyontara Atma Manomaya hai, Anyontara Atma Vijnanamaya hai. Like that, Taitra Upanishad describes these. They are all abstract, Manomaya, Anandamaya, Vijnanamaya, abstract concepts. And Anandamaya amongst all of them is the most extremely abstract principle. We have struggled with Karana Shariram, isn't it, when we discuss Karana Shariram? Anandamaya Kosha, very abstract, extremely abstract. Like Maya or Avidya, etc. Compared to all these 5 features, compared to all these Panchakosha, consciousness is so intangible, so abstract, that segregating these abstract things will require a very fine intellect. Therefore, a teacher has to be very alert, a student has to be very alert to grasp it. In fact, the teacher would have already grasped it, but while communicating to the students, he has to be very alert. Every word that the teacher speaks creates a certain orientation in the student's mind. That's why Puja Swamiji, if you have heard his talks, he talks very slowly. Every word that he uses, he will think. There is a process he undergoes in his mind, whether I should use this word or that word. If I use this word, what kind of understanding and orientation it will create in the student's mind? Will it be conveying what the Shastra wants to convey correctly? People like me are all blessed because we have already got the talks of Puja Swamiji. We have already got, how to communicate, what words or what vocabulary to be used. So it becomes much easy for us. But even given that, there is a possibility that there may be some misunderstanding on the part of the student. And therefore, not only the teacher has to be alert, students also have to be very alert and careful. And to convey that as an example, convey that, Adi Shankara gives an example here. Munjat ishikam iva. In fact, this example, he has borrowed it from Kathopanishad. There's a beautiful mantra in Kathopanishad. Angushtamatra purushantaratma sada jananam hridaye sannivishta hai tam swacharirat pravruhen munjadi veshikam dhairyena tam vidyachukramam amritam tam vidyachukramamritam iti. So the munjat ishikam dhairyena swacharirat pravruhet. That is how the Anvaya has to be done. Like you separate the inner core, the inner pith from the munja grass. Otherwise, the munja grass cannot be used. Munja, as I was telling you, is the name of a long grass. The grass has got very fine and sharp edges. In fact, the edges are sharper than a knife rather. So while plucking the grass, we have to be very carefully handle it. It could cut your fingers. We cannot pluck it just casually. Very carefully, those munja grass is picked. Why should you ask? Why should one pick munja grass? Munja grass is supposed to be a very, very sacred grass, very protective grass. In fact, when we do the Upanayanam ceremony, when a boy becomes a brahmachari, a thread or a small rope made out of the munja grass is made, and it has to be tied as a mekhala, like a belt, on the waist of the boy to protect the boy from all negative influences which surround him and which could potentially prevent him from becoming a brahmachari. That process, that ritual is called Maunji Bandhanam. Now the same protection a girl also has to take at the time of wedding. In fact, a girl's wedding, many people ask, this question. Why only boys have got this Upanayanam? Girls do not have this Upanayanam. Why is this Shastra making this differentiation? Very, very question most often asked, especially all by the feminists and all that who don't have absolutely any understanding of our culture. In a Upanayanam, there are very two important rituals. Of course, not that others are not important, but two rituals are performed for the brahmachari. One is this Maunji Bandhanam, another is Ashwarohanam. There will be a stone, and the boy will be asked to stand up on that stone rather. It signifies that the boy is being advised, like this stone, which is solid, unshakable, your own sankalpa, your own whatever you have thought for yourself, you should be unshakable. That's the example they give. These two rituals are performed for the girl during the wedding. Maunji Bandhanam and Ashwarohan. So therefore, wedding of a girl is considered to be her Upanayanam ceremony. So our culture does not differentiate. Girl also has to go through these two rituals. Maunji Bandhanam is done to the girl. If you have observed the marriages, especially this was prevalent for everybody. Now all other jatis have slowly removed or probably compromised on this important ritual because of lack of understanding. Nobody has taught them. They have also not shown interest in learning. So coming back, the girl has to tie around her waist a thread or rope made from the munja grass. So this is one additional information I thought which is relevant, and I will share about this munja grass. Now, if you pick up a munja grass, you can see a central pith, as I said, in an inner core. Those of you who have actually done some cooking with the plantain flower, many ladies would have done that. Plantain flower, it has got the small the beginning part of the banana, right?
Something like petals.
Like something, it looks like petals. Petals are the big ones which are there, right? In between the petals, you get small mini banana type things, right? Those are the ones which actually grow into big bananas. First raw bananas, then ripe bananas. Now, they are very tasty, very good for health. Those small ones, very good. They are tasty also. And in South, of course, South of India, we make different dishes out of that rather. And it is supposed to be highly fiber content and also very good for digestion, etc. Now, when you prepare that, first you remove it from the flower, and then there is an inner core in each one of those mini or micro bananas, which has to be removed first. Because that portion will not cook. It will look very soft, but actually from a cooking perspective, it is very hard. It won't get cooked. And you can't consume it uncooked because it could create further health problems. So it is a very, very delicate and I would call it a painful process. But ladies have got enough patience. I mean, that is why at home they cook. Cooking requires tremendous amount of patience, attention to detail. And that is a speciality of, females rather. God has made them like that. And cooking has to be done with lot of love and affection. And then only that the essence on that food, the nutrients, will go and reach the right places in the people who consume that food. So cooking is not just one should not look at cooking as a general kind of a practice. Cooking involves a lot of both mental and physical and intellectual involvement. And this combination you will find only in women. Now, don't ask me, okay, in big marriages and all that, it is the men who cook. Those food will not contain all these things. They are cooking because that is their profession. They will just, there is no love there. There is no affection there. They don't even pray that this food should go and help everybody for a good health and all that. Even if some rat or something falls into the food, they won't even know that such a thing has happened. So we should not compare the cooking which is done in a big ceremony or marriage, etc., with the cooking which is done by women at home. For women, cooking is a karma yoga. You don't need to do anything else. Just focus, look at your family. I am doing this cooking as a karma yoga. I don't want anybody to say, oh, your cooking is wonderful and all. All I am praying is, Bhagavan, let all the good things from this cooking reach my family, reach the people who eat in a proper way, so that their health is protected, their health is enhanced. Many ladies ask, what karma yoga we can do? We can't do Panchamaha Yagya. We have not had this Upanayanam. And you don't need a Upanayanam for that. Once you are married, as I said, you have already done the Upanayanam. But they will say, no, but we are not wearing the thread. Thread is being worn by your husband. At the time of marriage, you perform the Upanayanam ceremony, and you, with Agni as the Sakshi, with the Veda mantras as Sakshi, what you are doing, you are giving the power of attorney to your husband to perform all the rituals which Veda asks the humans to do on your behalf. And that is why a brahmachari who wears that punal, that sacred thread which has got 3 strands, during the time of marriage, he is given 1 more sacred thread with 3 more strands. What does that represent? That represents that giving over of power of attorney. He is wearing that 3 strand additional sacred thread on behalf of his wife. If we understand all these things, we will have no conflict. We will have no controversies in our thing. But unfortunately, people don't understand all this. And therefore, a woman says, I am not performing Pandyavandanam Panchamahayagya, you don't need to. You have already given power of attorney to your husband. In fact, what you should do, if that fellow is not doing, you should make him do it. Because you are also going to suffer because of that. All the punyas that the husband gains by doing all the rituals, Nitya karma, Naimittika karma and all, 50% of the punyam goes to the wife. Because he is performing all these on his behalf and also on behalf of the wife, being the attorney holder. So if he fails to do that, women should realize, oh, this fellow is actually punishing me by not doing all these things. He is depriving me of the 50% share I have got in the punya. So therefore, they should make sure that this fellow does all Sandhya Vandanam, etc. properly at right time. Anyhow, again, these are all so interesting topics, but they're very relevant, because I find that whenever I am teaching or in class and all that, many students do not have any questions about Atma, Anatma. They have got questions like this only. Why women are not given? Why men are given this? Why this does not happen to women and all? And Swami Paramarthananda is really very, very great teacher, because he makes all these teachings very relevant for the current, society rather. So we need to understand, and these are all opportunities we get to understand, bit by bit all these things. So coming back to the munja grass, that inner core has to be removed very carefully, because the outer core has got sharp edges, like the anatma. The inside, the tender pit, it is called ishika. It is like the anatma. So from the munja anatma, the ishika atma can be separated only when you are very alert and careful. Similarly, you have to be very careful and alert whilst intellectually separating anatma from atma, or atma from anatma. That is why he says, he gives the example, munjat ishikam iva. More we will see in the next class. Okay, it's time now. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Visishyate. Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you all.
धन्यवाद रघु जी.
Namaste.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank- Thank you very much, Guruji. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is munja grass like darba grass? No.
No,
Darba is
Darba is
different.
different, Munja is different. Munja, we
Okay,
use it
darba.
only for tying around this waist. It's a long grass because Darba grass, you cannot make it into a rope and tie it in the waist. Whereas Munja grass are sometimes they are 5 feet, 6 feet tall.
But even darba grass has got sharp edges.
They have, but Darba grass sharp edges are not that sharp. You can actually, if you know, the only problem with Munja grass is they are very soft, right? I mean, soft means the apart from the edge, the other portion is soft. So you cannot cut vegetables or fruits with that. But the edges are sharp
Yeah,
enough
true.
to do that. Edges
But
are
there's
sharp.
also a story that the snake, I believe, tried to taste the grass and the tongue got split into two.
Yeah. Those stories are all there, correct. So that's very sharp. So, but then that is used. So there are people who are trained first how to pluck the munja grass. And then they are also trained because you have to hold it very carefully to remove the inner pith. If you don't remove the inner pith, you cannot make it a rope. You cannot tie it around. So you have to remove the inner pith. Then it becomes like a rope, it becomes. And then, of course,
you can handle it safely.
They do some more processing in order to sort of twist it into a rope where they have to take care that the sharp edges are also blunted so that, it doesn't cut when it is tied to the body, it doesn't cut the body and all that. So it's a very, very detailed process handling this munja grass.
The darba grass, I believe, has got the property to absorb radiation.
Yes. Darba grass has got a property to absorb radiation. And that is why when we are doing, we use this pavitram and all.
Pavitram.
So especially when doing something, pavitram is there throughout the puja. So that is supposed to absorb radiation and things like that.
Even during lunar eclipse or solar eclipse, they say use darba grass everywhere in all your food and other things.
So that's not only radiation, but also other toxic, some gases, etc., which could be there during these periods. To protect, use darba grass. That will absorb everything rather. That's what they say. But munja grass is different from darba grass.
Okay. With permission of Mr. Sitaram, can I take 1 minute, please?
Yeah, go ahead.
The thing is about this moksha. Now, do I mean to understand that the total population, regardless of human being, animals, insects, etc., A plus B plus, it's a constant number?
No.
Total because you say anybody.
You mean say aggregate of the total?
Aggregate,
It's a constant. The number
because
of
anybody who,
yes.
In other words, anybody who is born in any form has to again take a rebirth.
You must include in that all bacteria, all viruses, all germs. Everything is a jiva.
Everything is jiva.
So theoretically, what you are saying, that number is constant. But within itself, it keeps on changing. The population of each keeps on changing depending upon the past karmas.
Okay.
And don't ask the question, when did it all begin? Nobody knows. Anadi. No, Shastra, don't ask that question. But you can understand that this is what it is. This is what it is.
Okay.
Everything, every jiva is there. The aggregate of all that is a constant. Yes. It's only change from one form to another form.
Change. True. Yeah. That is, energy can neither be created nor destroyed type.
Yes, exactly. Okay. Right.
Thank you very much, Guruji. Namaskaram.
Namaskaram. Yes, Sitaramji.
Question. Atma, Anatma. I said Atma and Atma.
Ah,
Can we say it is like an individual with a shadow walking, shadow following? Shadow, you cannot separate from the individual. Shadow exists so long as the person is there. So when
because
the person goes off, shadow goes off.
yeah, the problem with that example is both the shadow has got a dependence on light.
Yes.
If there is no light, there can be no shadow. Right? But Atma is not like that. Atma is self-effulgent. It has got its own light. So that example will not be a correct example to understand Atma and Anatma rather. That is what we have to be careful, because many examples will appear very, very attractive and very, I mean, what we have to go a little further to see whether that actually, because by giving that, the lot of misunderstandings could come up rather. So normally the teachers try to be, like light and bulb, or electricity and bulb, like that. That kind of example, which are not again 100% example. You can still find fault, but the area of difference will be very limited rather, and that helps us to understand what is the nature of this Atma. What
So
exactly
it's very clear. Shadow is dependent on the light, whereas consciousness is ever present.
Ever present.
It doesn't need any third external factor.
Exactly. And not only that, shadow will fall opposite side from where the light comes.
Yes.
If the light is in your front, shadow will be in the back. If the light is in the back, shadow will be in the front. That's not what Atma is. Atma, irrespective of anything, wherever you are, all Atma, only Atma is there. Only consciousness is there. So that way, when we compare example, we just to be very careful in understanding it. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, Ramuji.
Just one point that you may know that Parthis have this Navjots.
Yeah.
It is like the Upanyanam of ours.
Correct.
They both have it. The boys and
Absolutely.
girls
You are
both
right.
have it.
See, there are
just
many communities have this Upanayanam ceremony, right?
I just want to make that point.
Yeah, you are right. Parsi is one great example of this Upanayanam ceremony. That is Sanatana Dharma. Once upon a time, we understood these are all the part of nature, reality of nature. That has
They
gone.
are from Iran. They were driven away from Iran.
Correct. So it is not that because they came to India that they have adopted. Originally itself, Parsis.
Originally it was there.
Yes,
it is they continued the tradition.
Correct. Absolutely. You're right. Absolutely right. Good. Lataji, 1 minute. Hariji, I'll come to you. Let Lataji raise her hand.
Namaste, Guruji.
Namaste.
Very thought-provoking and stimulating session. Every word is so important. The Atma and Anatma are two separate entities, and to understand the Atma, we need Anatma, and to experience Anatma, we need Atma. But even when we listen to the talk, it gets the impression it is completely separate. But then the origin of the Anatma is from the Atma, right? It's the grosser form of the Atma, the Anatma.
Atma plus Maya.
Atma. But origin of Maya is also from Atma. Origin of Maya is also from the Atma, right?
We don't know.
Because there's nothing which is not Atma. So there's only one thing one thing that exists, and that's Atma.
That is true. But the point we have to understand is Maya is the material matter component, right?
Yeah.
Now, Atma is just pure consciousness.
Yeah.
Now, from pure consciousness, which is absolutely no matter, it is not matter, it is not a material thing. it is akarta, abhokta, etc. Question can be, how can matter come from that? Tangible matter, how can it generate the tangible matter?
So the intermediary thing is the Maya.
Yeah. So what we say intermediary means, then that is why we try to explain the Nirguna Brahman and Saguna Brahman. Saguna Brahman is Atma or consciousness plus Maya is Saguna Brahman, which takes the form, etc. So when we want to understand the pure Atma, pure consciousness, you refer to it as Nirguna Brahman. The word Brahman is common to both. So Atma is common to both. But when we are talking about Maya or the world or the tangible world that we experience, we call that Saguna Brahman, just to differentiate in our mind. It's again a intellectual separation for understanding purposes. So we should not go into the question of what came, whether the egg came first or the chicken came first. That kind of a question we will never find an answer, right?
No,
Even
that's not,
Shastra doesn't give an answer to that. Maya is Anadi, Atma, Brahman is Anadi. They have been existing from beginningless times. And nobody knows, even Shastra doesn't know which preceded what. So there is no question of preceding.
No.
There is no question of
Okay.
origin also. Well, origin means previously it was not there, then it originated. That is the understanding.
Okay.
The origin also
So,
is beginningless.
Atma and Maya and the Srishti, they have always been there.
Always been there, either in manifest form or unmanifest form. So we should not ask that question, who came from, whether this came from that or that came from this. That question.
No, the reason I asked this, sorry, Guruji, I'm interrupting. The reason I asked the question is like when some an immature student like me, we get the impression that Anatma is inferior to Atma. But then Anatma origin is the origin of everything itself is Atma. There's nothing which is not Atma, isn't it? So
See,
so Anatma is also as important as Atma.
Yeah. This inferiority, superiority, business and all is all our own superimpositions, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Now, can I tell you how to understand this? There is a man, there is a woman, correct? They get married. What happens? Their status changes to husband and wife. You can't call a person a husband if he does not have a wife. You can't call a lady a wife if she does not have a husband. They are individuals. They are individuals. But their relationship is a new relationship. We can give them new names for that relationship. Now, who is inferior? Who is superior?
No.
Both are inferior, both are superior. They are equal. And that's why, this understanding we have to actually imbibe in every aspect. That's why Krishna talks about samatvam, samatvam, samatvam throughout the Gita. That is the secret of knowing. So we should look at everything as, you want to call it inferior, okay, call everything inferior. Because then you will ask, what is superior? There is nothing superior. So then you say everything is superior. So it is like that husband and wife, new names are there, but the relationship which is there, we cannot define that relationship. There is no inferiority, superiority business. If at all we are observing or saying all those things only because of our ignorance, because of our ahankara, we are doing all this. You are inferior, I am superior. In nature, everything is functional and everything is equal in terms of whether inferiority or superiority, in terms of its relative importance for the entire cosmic order, rather. So we cannot ignore anything in the nature. Everything has got the same. The type of authority may differ, type of function may differ, but every function is critical and crucial. That's what we have to
So
understand.
this dissection that Sri Adi Shankara is doing between Atma and Anatma to know the Paramatma, it is only for the purpose of self-realization, but all are equally important. There's samatvam in
All are
everything,
equal.
but then
Anatma, nobody says it is not important. Without Anatma, you can't talk about Atma. You understand that there is something called Brahman, something called Atma only because of Anatma.
Anatma.
Because when you are seeing your body, mind, sense complex functioning very well, the question comes, how this function happens? Why in a dead body this is not happening? You try to find an answer. It is just like, you are seeing a bulb, a light, a fan and all. A person who is not a thinker and all, he will say, okay, the fan gives me very good, cool air. The bulb gives me light. I play the radio, it gives me music and all. He will be happy with that. He will not think how all these are working. Right? A thinker will think, what is powering all these things? Because I am able to do a switch off, switch on for that. Right? How am I able to do it? When I switch it off, it goes off. When I switch it on, it comes up. Start thinking. Then you will go, okay, there must be something. Is it the same thing amongst all these things, or is it different things? Next step of inquiry. Then you find that there is something called electricity, which is what is the common thing between all these gadgets. Right? So, while understanding Anatma, you by doing this, what is self-inquiry? Self-inquiry, Atma Vichara is nothing but first recognizing that there is something called Atma, and then inquiring into it as what exactly is that Atma. Then then questioning, am I Anatma or am I Atma? So all these are all steps in the self-inquiry. And the whole Shastra deals with it step by step by step. So that a good serious student will understand, he will be able to follow exactly. They don't jump into conclusions rather. That is the whole process of Atma Vichara or self-inquiry. And it's
so our misery because of associating ourselves with Anatma is because we have not understood that we are Atma in
exactly.
In real.
Because our misery is because of our feeling of limited. Right? Why do we have unhappiness? In fact, I'll be talking about that. I'm just developing those thoughts. In our life, they say that you must improve your IQ, EQ, and all that, right? There is something called HQ, happiness quotient. How do you improve your happiness quotient? What do you need to know to improve your happiness quotient? So, how to improve happiness quotient through Karma Yoga is going to be the topic of my talk in that Canada, in Toronto, Sringeri temple. So
Can we get an audio of that?
No, I hope at least I'll ask my son or daughter-in-law to do the video recording. If they are not doing it, we'll see that. I mean, the point is, the first element of happiness, increasing happiness quotient, Krishna talks about in Karmanye Vadikaraste Ma Phaleshu Kadachana. Why? Because once you want to increase your happiness quotient, you want to know what causes unhappiness. Because by removing what are the cause of unhappiness, happiness quotient will automatically improve, isn't it? Today we are a mixture of happiness and unhappiness. Even if 50-50. So if we reduce unhappiness by 10%, happiness goes up by 10%. So then you inquire into what is causing my unhappiness. My happiness stems from the fact that I start with a desire. I get into an action to fulfill that desire. I have a control over what that action is, but I have no control over the result of that action. If I understand that, you are introducing karma yoga straight away into happiness quotient development. So these are all things that it is not merely that we attend the classes here, we read the books, we read the scripture. You must keep on thinking about all these. You have to, that is what is contemplation is all about. You have to think about them. Analyze in your mind, what is it that being said? That is why a Vedanta student has got to be a very critical analysis. And he should not accept anything that the Guru says without first validating what the Guru has said in his own mind. That is how you develop conviction for the teachings of the Upanishads. Never accept anything just because Guru is saying, oh, Guru is great, he knows everything. Because he is saying that, I'm going to accept. That is not the approach a Vedanta student should take at all. In fact, he should stand up and question the Guru. You are saying this, on what basis you are saying this? And if he is really a Strotriyam Brahmanishta, he will be able to convince you. Otherwise, the Guru will also just give you some, answers, evading answers rather. So you can.
Your answers are always very clear. Your answers are all very clear, and your answers are always very clear and clarifying.
That shows that I have done that critical analysis and accepted what the Guru has says, and probably I might have rejected a few ideas which somebody I might have heard on a video sent to me on WhatsApp. Some Guru is saying something. So like that also there are Gurus who say things which will appeal to the masses who are ignorant, but which will not appeal to the people who are knowledgeable. If you get an opportunity, you will catch hold of that Guru by his neck and why did you say that? How did you say that? On what basis you say that? Now there are many Gurus, you see, they are very clever Gurus. They will say what I am saying is not based on scriptures, and they will talk any nonsense. So you can't question them also. He said, I never said that this is based on Vedas. So why you are questioning me? Vedas, let them say anything. This is my own teaching. This is my own idea. This is what they will say. But most of the time, they will talk only what Vedas are talking. When they are caught, they will escape by this non-Veda route. So all those kind of people will come across. So when we listen to those Gurus also, we have to be careful. Okay.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Lataji. Hariji. Hariji.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Guruji, you were talking about separation of Atma and Anatma. Now, this is an extension, like Lataji was asking, but independently I wanted to ask. When Atma is all pervasive, how at all is possible for a separation between Atma and Anatma?
It is not, physically not possible.
It is not possible because
physically
it is
not
all
possible.
pervasive.
Yes. Even a dead body is there.
He has got, I was about to tell you that.
Atma pervades the dead body also.
Also.
Because
only the subtle body is not there.
When you have to understand, when we talk of Brahman,
yeah,
there are three aspects we talk.
Yeah.
Each one of them are interconnected, but also separate. Are they pure existence, pure consciousness, and limitlessness? These are the three things it are. Sat, Chit, Ananta or Ananda. Correct? Now, the Sat aspect, the existence aspect is universal. Whether there is consciousness or not consciousness, a rock is Sat. Rock has got Sat aspect. It does not have consciousness. Right? A dead wood has got Sat aspect. Existence is there. Whenever
Yeah.
we say something is, what we are referring to is the Sat,
Isness.
isness. The Sat aspect of Brahman is pervading all over.
Yeah.
So when we say all pervading, we are referring to the Sat aspect. Consciousness is not all pervading. Consciousness requires a medium to be recognized. That medium is provided by the Sat Jivas. Jivas who are Sat. That is why consciousness, not everything is sentient in the universe, right? Even a mosquito is sentient, we are sentient and all. Sentience is there. But a rock is not sentient. Mountain is not sentient. Mountain may contain sentient things like trees, etc. Mountain itself is not sentient. Sand.
Which, in other words, you are telling consciousness, Brahman is not consciousness.
Brahman is three things: pure consciousness, pure existence, and limitlessness. Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. Taittiriya Upanishad. So we must understand all these things very carefully, not confuse one with the other.
If you take an inanimate object,
Yes.
like a rock,
Yes.
does Brahman exist in a rock?
The Satta aspect of Brahman is existing. So we say Brahman is existing. You can see the rock, you say rock is?
Yeah.
Rock asti. You say? What is asti? Isness, the Sat aspect.
Yeah.
So Brahman is pervading that rock. Understood? This is how we have to understand. Now, you take a human being. We say he is, right?
Yeah.
It implies two things. That he is means he is existing and he is also alive.
Mm.
So both Sat and Chit aspects are reflected in that human being. But what is not reflected, the third aspect of Brahman, is Anantam or Anandam. Anantam eva Anandam. Limitlessness is what is happiness is all about.
Yeah.
That limitlessness, we cannot, not all human beings can realize. What Jnana Yoga adds is that limitlessness to the third aspect of Brahman is added to a human being through Jnana Yoga, by which he can say, Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. I have got all the three aspects of Brahman. I am complete Brahman. A rock is an incomplete Brahman. I am also, as an Ajnani, an incomplete Brahman. Only when I get the full knowledge of whom I am, the knowledge of Atma, I can claim to be Aham Brahmasmi. Today we cannot claim Aham Brahmasmi because we don't know that we are limitless. Limitlessness also is one aspect of Brahman, the third important aspect of Brahman. All these things put together is what is Brahman. And that is why at the time of Jnanam, when you get that, then only you can say Aham Brahmasmi. Before that, you cannot claim Aham Brahmasmi. So when you think about all these things, this is how the thought develops. You have to, the understanding develops. Comprehensive understanding.
It's very interesting.
It is.
It is very fast.
If it is not interesting, why do you think that you are attending the classes and why I am teaching?
It is fascinating, it is.
Fascinating. Yes, absolutely fascinating. People don't understand. So fascinating. You go deeper and deeper and deeper into it. Your own intellect will raise 100 questions, like you are raising 100 questions. It is not a question meant for me. It is a question which you are asking yourself and trying to seek an answer through your guru. But the question is coming in your mind because you are involved in this. You find it fascinating. You want to accept it, but there are certain obstacles in the form of some doubts and some lack of clarity. That becomes question in your mind. You are trying to get it clarified. The spiritual journey is a fascinating journey. I can tell you that. Only those who have traveled in it, who are traveling in it, can vouch for that. And it is not meant for everybody. That is also, I will say. And karma, your own past karmas, your punyas, they bring you to this situation where you will start finding it fascinating. You go and tell somebody on the road, this is all Atma, Anatma and all, they won't find fascinating. In fact, they will find it terrible, very disturbing. What is all this he is talking about? That's Vijayaji, yes. What's your question? Acha. I can't hear. Voice is breaking.
Is it better now?
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah.
Guruji, my question is again regarding consciousness and Sat and Chit. What I understood is that you're saying that Chit is not there in a rock. Probably it is there, but because the reflecting medium is not there, it's not able to express itself.
Exactly. You cannot, you are right. We cannot say Chit is not there in the rock. Rock is unable to reflect the Chit. That is how we have to understand. Yes, what you are saying is absolutely right.
Okay,
now, all
thanks.
these three aspects are there, but we can recognize that aspects, all the three aspects, only in a human being who is alive. And that is what is moksha is all about.
Understanding that is moksha.
Understanding that, not only merely intellectual level, assimilating that understanding, living by that understanding is what is moksha.
Thank you, Guruji. That's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Any more questions? Anybody else? Nothing. So we can close the session. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Guruji. Hari Om. Thank you.
Thank you, Guruji.
Thank you, Guruji. Hari Om.
Hari
Thank you,
Om.
Guruji. Hari Om.